secret that the past 2 years has had a disproportionate impact on women in the workforce, and it has also shaped how we all work together. Navigating the aftermath of the pandemic is one of the biggest business challenges of our time. To keep operations moving, companies had to move to a hybrid or digital model, adopting to new ways of working as individuals and teams. In some cases, companies have done away with in-person working altogether. As a result, many companies have also shifted the process of interviewing and hiring, adopting a much more digital method. We're here this week to support you to navigate the future of work by gathering the tools, the resources, and the skills you need to thrive in your career. We couldn't have done this without our title sponsor, Mackenzie Investments, our executive sponsor, Mars Canada, our session sponsors, LHH, Adecco, Indeed, and Phillips, and to all of our add-on sponsors, ICF Toronto and Isomers. I'm so happy to share with you today that Mars Canada has shared a welcome message for all of you to kick off the event today.
Hi everyone, my name is Susanna Dalrymple and I'm the General Manager of Mars Pet Nutrition Canada and sponsor of the Women of Mars Associate Group. On behalf of Mars Canada, we are incredibly proud to support Dress for Success. Mars believes that the world we want tomorrow is a place where all women are empowered to reach their full potential, and we know women still face a range of barriers today. We are really committed to unlocking opportunities for women within our business and in our communities. That's why we are so proud to be working with Dress for Success. We strongly believe in the programs that Dress for Success provides to really empower women to reach their goals and thrive in work and life. So thank you for all that you do to make a lasting difference for your clients and their families.
Thank you so much. As we officially kick off today's event, it now gives me great pleasure to introduce our Toronto Mayor, John Tory.
Hello, Mayor John Tory here, and I want to welcome you all to the Dress for Success Conference, which as usual is right on the money in terms of the subject matter they've chosen. You know, a lot of people think of Dress for Success as a nonprofit organization which ensures that women have professional attire when they're searching for a job. And yes, thanks to donations and an effective outreach program, Dress for Success does exactly that. But it does so much more in the quest for gender equality and ensuring that women have the skills and the support and the confidence to achieve their full potential. Women continue to struggle to achieve dignity and respect and financial independence, and this was only made far worse by the pandemic. And the fact is that the pandemic hit women harder than men, so the role played by Dress for Success is more needed than ever. This week's program, which is all about mastery of the job search and the future of work, is very timely. Aside from some very helpful sessions on resumes and salary negotiations, for example, the conference will probe the changes that are taking place in how and when people are working post-pandemic and how you can best adjust to that. If we're to be successful as a city and as a country, we need to help everyone to achieve their full potential and make sure that no one is left behind, leave alone an entire gender. Dress for Success is doing important work to help achieve gender equality and advance particularly the economic interests of women. I commend them for that, and I thank you for taking part in this conference, which I know will help you gain the skills and the knowledge and the confidence that you need to be whatever you want to be. Please enjoy the conference, and many thanks to Dress for Success.
Good morning, and welcome to our 4th annual Mastering Your Job Search, the Future of Work. We are so excited for this week. Thank you to Mayor Tory for his fabulous introduction. He has been a tremendous supporter of Dress for Success now for many years. We are very excited. Kate Green and her team have done an outstanding job pulling together the kind of topics and information that you have said you need to help you on your journey to find the kind of work you are looking for. We have more than 1,000 people signed up for this event and many more who will be watching it on our YouTube channel. We know that with the help of our outstanding partners, we will have a fantastic event that will help you, that will provide you with the tools that really will help you hone in on the skills you need for your job search. Thank you for coming to this event. We look forward to many more interactions with you, and best of luck for the week.
Thank you so much, Harriet. I'm pleased to introduce to you now our Director of Client Programs, Iona Frost.
Thanks, Kate, and welcome everyone. Thank you all for joining us this morning. I'm so pleased to be co-hosting this event along with my colleague, Digital Media and Communications Manager Kim Ernst, who is in the background managing all things tech and flow. We're so excited to connect you with the incredible speakers we've got lined up and ensure that our guests and you have an incredible conference experience this week. If you haven't already registered for sessions beyond today, not to worry, there's still time. We'll be covering things like personal branding, salary negotiations, how to thrive in an interview, and tips to support your first 100 days in a new role. Again, we thank all our amazing sponsoring partners for making this event possible, and you'll learn more about each of them over the course of the conference. So stick around to the end of today's session as we'll share the links to these upcoming sessions, or you can always head back to our website anytime to register. I know you're all looking forward to our first session, but before we launch in, I want to go over a couple of quick housekeeping details. So tech in these live virtual sessions is always an issue, as we've experienced this morning. So if you have any problems, please just click on the help button, which is on the right side of your screen, and it looks like a captain ship's wheel. If you can't access anything there, there is a frequently asked questions list. And if you're still having troubleshooting challenges, just pop in a message into the chat, and Kim is at the ready to help support you. If you require closed captioning, click on the icon just above the help button, and this one looks like a cloud with an arrow pointing down. And here you can download instructions to access the closed captioning. All sessions will be recorded and posted on our YouTube channel for you to access, and we'll be sending everybody that link next week. And although we're not in person, we want today and the rest of the week to be as interactive as possible, so don't be shy about asking questions or sharing your reactions. There are a few ways to engage during these discussions, and again, on the right-hand side, you'll see these options. So for the chat, it's the little speech bubble with the 3 dots. Please feel free to pop anything in there. If you have specific questions, if you could use the icon below that with the question mark, and we'll be monitoring that and make sure that we capture your questions and address those at the end of today's session. And at any time, please feel free to send out your love, send out the reactions using the super fun animated emojis on the side here, which you'll see are floating around already. So lastly, before we head into the main event, I wanted to send a quick reminder about the opportunities to win some very cool prizes. At each of the 5 sessions throughout the week, we'll be giving away a $100 Visa gift card, and these will be drawn at random, and the winners will be contacted directly. Plus, we're giving away 5 brand new Acer Chromebook laptops. We've got a quiz prepared that will be live over the 5 days of the conference with questions related to each day's session. So yes, the key here is to join us every day for your chance to win. The laptops will be awarded to the top 5 ranking individuals with the most points, and the winners will be announced the week after the event. So without further ado, I am so very pleased to welcome and introduce our first guest presenter, Mina Kayla Gambier, the Senior Career Consultant of Career Solutions at Lee Hecht Harrison. Through assessments, coaching, upskilling, and recruitment, companies can realize the untapped potential within their own workforce. This results in increases in productivity, morale, and brand affinity. LHH's 4,000 coaches and colleagues work with over 12,000 organizations in more than 60 countries around the world. They hold local expertise, global infrastructure, and industry-leading technology to manage the complexity of critical workforce initiatives and the challenges of transformation. Mina is a fan favorite of Dress for Success Toronto, and we're delighted to have her back with us today, not only to share her expertise, but to kick off the whole conference. Welcome, Mina, and thank you for joining us.
Hello, everyone. It's great to be here this morning. This is not my first conference, but my 3rd conference. And I'm so excited to be welcoming you to the first session of Mastering Your Job Search, the Future of Work Conference. It continues to be a privilege to be here on behalf of LHH and for me to be a part of this conference. And I'm really excited to be sharing the information on the new world of work, adjusting your mindset and approach. This is a very relevant topic that every business leader is chatting about. And so I'm happy to engage in the conversation. I don't want to be a talking head, so please, I see emojis coming up. So when you're prompted, please feel free to use the emojis as well as the chat. So just curious, where are people calling in from today? If you could just write in the chat. Where are you calling in from? Toronto, lots of people from Toronto, the center of the universe, as I like to say. Mississauga, Halton Hills, Haliburton, Markham, Calgary, New York, International, London, Ontario. Excellent. Excited that you could join us and really excited to be kicking off the session. Okay. Okay, so as I was introduced, my name, Mina Kayla Gambier. I'm a certified professional career coach, job search advisor, and facilitator. I've helped hundreds of professionals to thrive with greater clarity, focus, and confidence, to take charge of their careers, to make successful career transitions, and even to develop their career. So as you can imagine, this is a very relevant topic for me. In the chat, please feel free to put in, when you're prompted, different questions, okay? In today's session, what we'll be covering are the future of work. We'll be talking about what does the future of work actually mean? I know there's a lot of talk around what it is, but what does it actually mean? Especially in the light of the forces of change that we've experienced over the last 2 years. Some of these include, of course, geopolitical and economic uncertainty, the global, all exacerbated by a global pandemic. Okay, we're also going to be taking a look at some of the findings of a study launched in 2020. So this is during the pandemic by Adecco Group, which is LHH's parent company. What it will do is it will provide us some insights on attitudes, behaviors, and outlook of knowledge workers on the future of work. Okay, here we'll look at 5 key themes that emerge that are important for workers, not only workers, but also organizations to consider in how they are shaping the new world of work. From these, based on the themes, we'll be taking a look at the 6 emerging must-know workplace trends. This is what you want to be in the know of. Okay, and we'll also talk a little bit about how those trends can be integrated in your own job search. Okay, so when you think of the future of work, I want you to take a look at this word cloud. Okay, and in the chat, what resonates with you? What in this word cloud pops out for you? Economy, temps, work life, remote, mobility, temporary, independent, shifting, flexibility, that's a big one. Balance, also a big one. Resilience. Oh, I love independent. I love the words that are coming up. So really, you want to really be thinking about all of these things as we're going to be talking about the future of work and understanding more about it. Okay, the future of work. Perhaps the SHRM has the best way of defining the future of work, both in words and in the diagram. Simply put, the future of work is a projection of how workers, and the workplace will evolve in the years ahead. The work is the what, so how the work is done. We all have heard of robotics, cognitive, and AI technologies. So we really want to think about what work can be done by and with smart machines. Okay, what also defines the future of work are workers. These are the workers that make up the workforce. So the who does the work? With new talent platforms and contracts, who can do the work? As we just looked at, a lot of people had written in the chat all about temporary, giggy, sort of freelance contracts. So, who's really going to be doing the work in the future? How do we leverage the continuum of talent from full-time to managed services to freelancers, gig workers, and crowdsourcing? Okay. The third piece is the workplace. This is the where. Okay, so when you think about this, you want to think about when and where the work is done. With the new combinations of collaborative, teaming, digital reality technologies, how are workplaces and work practices reshaping when and where the work is done? Okay, so we see that in the pandemic where we had to basically move to remote work. In a lot of cases now things have moved to a hybrid working environment. But as you can imagine, these are really critical things as we're thinking about what makes up the future of work. Okay, so now we're going to take a look at resetting the normal, defining the new work era. So as mentioned, in May 2020, the Adecco Group, which is LHH's parent company, launched an 8-market study to provide insights on attitudes and behaviors, as well as outlook for the knowledge workers on the future of work. Okay, so this is the second edition of the study, and the second edition really looks today at the original research and builds upon it. Okay, the study covers 25 countries across the globe. They wanted to understand 2 things. One, they wanted to understand how attitudes have changed and the implications for companies to successfully adapt in this period of transition. Okay, especially a year after the pandemic. Really, it's changed the way we work forever. They also wanted to look at uncovering new perspectives and insight on what the future of work can and should look like. Okay, from the research study that was conducted, these are the 5 themes that emerged as the most relevant for people and businesses to understand in order to adapt the needs and priorities of the future working world of the future. Ultimately, we call this resetting the normal, really to create a future of work that works for everyone, organizations as well as the people that work in them. Okay, so we're going to take a look at some of these key themes and some of the what came up in in the studies as being important. So the first theme is hybrid. Okay, so when we talk about hybrid work is a flexible work model that supports a blend of in-office, remote, and on-the-go workers. So using the heart emoji, how many people appreciate the opportunity to be hybrid, or how many people want to be hybrid? Oh yeah, look at all the hearts flowing in, for sure. Interestingly enough, it's one of the most important things that clients I work with especially are talking about. And what the study showed us is globally, workers want a hybrid working model where more than half of their time is spent working remote. Okay, so that could be 3 days out of the office, 2 days in the office. What they also found was 8 in 10 believe that increased flexibility around a hybrid working environment will benefit both employers and employees. Okay, and the belief is also shared amongst leaders. Okay, majority believe that hybrid working models will boost equal opportunity. So when we talk about that, we're saying opportunities for parents. I know I have a son, and I know how working from home has really helped being able to look after him and his needs, especially in this virtual world, virtual remote learning world that we've been living in the last 2 years. Also creates more opportunity for people with disabilities and people from more diverse backgrounds. Okay, so that's where the equity, diversity, and inclusion conversation comes in. Workers also want the complementary benefits of work-life balance, and that's what working remote has given to people, and focus provided by remote alongside the office as a nice environment to collaborate and connect. So what we're understanding here is it's not only working remote, but it also is a combination of working remote, being in the office, as well as an opportunity to connect with your colleagues, because after all, we are still human beings and human interactions are really important. Okay, so the next theme, now we're going to take a look at the next theme that emerged in the study. Flexibility. My favorite topic, shorter and flexible, the new week in demand. So flexibility is really the new standard. So if you can show me either through maybe a thumbs up, let's change it up a little. See if you're paying attention. Good. Oh, look at all the thumbs up in terms of flexibility. And I just want to say that flexibility can be defined in a lot of different ways. It could be flexible work hours. It could be a flexible work week. As we see in the quote, workers don't want to lose their autonomy. 3 in 4 think it's important to retain flexibility over their own schedule in the next normal. Okay, so it sounds like participants agree with that. Workers don't want to give up flexibility that's been gained over their own schedule. Okay, so as we know, it is definitely really important. Some of the insights that the study showed is productivity has passed the test, and many things have improved for workers since last year, particularly their digital skills, their ability to care for others, and their ability to find work-life balance. They are better time managers and feel more trust to get the job done. So if we thought it wasn't possible before, we definitely know that it is possible now to be able to have flexibility in our work environments. Okay, workers are calling for a shorter work week. Just curious how many people would like a shorter work week. We get an applause for that. Excellent. Yeah, I'm all for the 4-day work week. Even myself, I find that I'm actually more productive when it is a shorter work week versus a longer work week. So it's not about working more, it is about working smarter. Okay, and doing more with less. Okay, so more than half of the workers state they would be able to do the same work in less than 40 hours. Okay, interesting. So more workers want to shift from hours to an outcome-based culture, but companies and leaders are struggling with how to evaluate performance management based on the results. So, it's not so much about spending 8 hours to do something, it's how productive are you and how much are you accomplishing in those 8 hours? And they're starting to realize that is actually what matters. Okay, so now we're going to take a look at the next theme that emerged: burnout, mental health. Okay, so can I get how about a happy emoji for those who think mental health is important and maybe have experienced some burnout, not even working during the pandemic, but not working during the pandemic? Okay, so well-being and people's mental health is an issue spanning age and gender, and burnout is a key concern for a lot of the leaders. Okay, now what they struggle with is half of the leaders struggle to actually see the signs of burnout. Okay, so burnout has been a significant cause for concern across the workforce. For almost 4 in 10 workers, more than half of the young leaders are suffering from burnout, the same group who shoulder significant responsibility for the future progress. So this is really alarming, and this is really critical and important. Companies are expected to share the responsibility of supporting well-being. Workers want companies and leaders to increase their focus on supporting their well-being. So it's definitely important. I think mental health has been something that has really been brought to the surface with the pandemic for everybody. So really important to understand burnout is critical, and many organizations are trying to create, either through their health benefits, including programs that specifically help them with burnout and being sure that we have, that we're able to maintain our mental health. Okay, so now we're going to go to the next theme that we're seeing in the studies. Okay, and this theme is leaders must reconnect the disconnect. Okay, so we're going to take a moment to just read the statistic here. 74% say it's important for managers to promote and nurture strong team morale, excuse me, and culture. But only 30% of non-managers say their manager is encouraging a good working culture. Okay, so just curious, how important, if you can show by maybe the party emoji, the celebration emoji, how important is a good working culture? Yeah. It's key. It is so critical, and even more critical at this time. At a time when we are connected all the time, the workforce has felt more disconnected, interestingly enough. I find that this is so true of, no longer do we have the opportunity to meet at the water cooler, or no longer do we have the opportunity to sort of pass in the hall and say hi and see how our colleagues are doing. So this has definitely been a really, really important piece for leaders. Okay. And it's really leaders who hold the key to reconnecting employees and reinventing a culture. So what would culture look like in a remote, hybrid work environment? Okay. Satisfaction with leadership is low at a non-management level, and workers' relationships motivation, and sense of team and company culture have deteriorated over the last year. This is what the study finds. Managers are falling short when it comes to setting a good culture, and those in non-management positions are feeling the impact. Okay. Leaders don't see the issue. There is a big disconnect between management views of their own performance and the opinion of their employees. That's where coaching and leadership development is really important and key for leaders. So this is as part of the study, what they have found. Okay. And so we're going to move to the last piece of the theme that was uncovered in the study. So we talk about the great re-evaluation. So I'm going to read the quote. 41% of workers have or are considering moving to a job with flexible options. Okay, so you may have heard of the Great Resignation boom. They've called it the reshuffle, the reevaluation. Everybody's coined it something different. And when we talk about this, what the study found is there's no great resignation on the horizon, but the warning signs for companies are there as people are starting to reevaluate what work means to them. Okay, really, really important. Just with maybe a show of a heart, how important is it for you to be connected with the work that you do in terms of your values, in terms of what's important to you, in terms of feeling like you're making a difference, that you have purpose in your work, that you have, that you're satisfied, that you have career fulfillment. So look at all the hearts that are popping up. So clearly this is really important. And this is what's prompted a lot of people to think about, reevaluate, am I really happy with the work that I do? Okay. I see some comments in so important, so true. So definitely resonates with a lot of people in terms of what is important to them. Okay. With motivation and engagement at a low, nearly 2 in 5 are considering moving to a job with more flexible options. So flexibility is definitely a key criteria for most workers. Okay. The study also showed that 2/3 of workers are confident that companies will start significant hiring again, and less than half, which we are actually currently seeing in our economy. There is a lot of, I think a few weeks ago, last month, labor statistics showed that we hit the lowest unemployment rate since we started recording unemployment rates back in the 70s. So really, it's hit a record low. Okay, so 2/3 of the workers are confident that companies will start significant hiring again, and less than half are satisfied with career prospects at their company. So that could also create a lot of opportunity for those seeking jobs. Okay, career reassessment looks set to converge with career opportunity. Okay, other things that are going to be important: security, agency, culture, well-being, and development are also really important moving forward. So that is what workers are looking for. 8 in 10 workers want to be able to maintain a good work-life balance. Okay, so it's really important to understand that this is a key piece in all of the themes that have emerged. And also just wanted to mention, women and men are equally reassessing their careers and have similar priorities for their career going forward. Okay, so thank you for participating in that and just sharing sort of with me through the emojis what is important to you. So now we're going to talk about some of the 6 must-know major workplace trends that we're seeing. Okay, now that we've looked at the studies, we're gonna really take a look now at what are some of the things that you need to be in the know of as you are looking for your next opportunity. Okay, as we discussed, one clear issue is the blurring of lines between work and home. Research shows that people are spending an extra 48.5 minutes working, okay, with understanding some of the challenges. It is important for you to understand how to future-proof your career, okay? Somebody had mentioned it earlier in the word cloud, that in today's landscape, being agile, resilient was the word that was mentioned, and willing to learn is the real power. Okay, so this is something that you really want to think about. Agility, resilience, willing to learn, being open to all that, all really important. These aren't hard skills, okay, that we're talking about. These are really have to do with your attitude. Okay. And being able to be agile, resilient, and willing to learn is key and critical. Okay. No matter what you're doing next. Okay. So we're going to take a look at some of the strategies that you can employ, when we're looking at some of these workplace trends. So mental health, we've already talked about burnout, how important it is. And I just wanted to offer some sort of tips that you can use in terms of building resilience and preventing burnout. What's really important is being able to understand you've got 8 hours in a day. How are you going to establish those 8 hours? How are you going to spend your 8 hours? One really key piece in terms of a tip is to schedule blocks of time on your calendar to prevent from meetings being scheduled before or after certain times of the day. Okay, does anybody do that at all? Block off their calendar so that certain things don't happen? Yeah, thumbs up. It's a really very effective strategy to use in terms of, I think that sometimes we feel like we have to be, because of anywhere all the time, remote working, we've got all these devices that can connect us to the world at any time. Really, really important to be able to understand and take ownership of your time and take ownership of your calendar. As an example, I don't book any meetings till 10 o'clock, and I usually stop meetings at about 4. Okay, because that's when, and the rest of the time is spent doing other things. Okay, and I see that in the chat here, I think meetings at 11 are rated as the best. Yeah, meetings at 11 are rated as the best, as well as what they say is, how we have coffee time typically around, they talk about coffee breaks usually between 3 and 4. That's also really important to sort of think about in terms of, where our energy is at that time of the day. Okay. So there, I see that Sarah's also put a comment in. There are very few things that require an immediate response. Wow, I love that. I love that. I've turned off my email notifications. What a great way. I myself has turned off a number of notifications. I think that that's another way to be able to control your attention and to prevent from burnout. Okay. Other ways are, thinking about, scheduling blocks of time, okay, to prevent people from getting into your calendar. Another way, another thing that you can do is establish a quick commute, air quotes, as my son likes to say, air quotes, if you will. This can be setting a routine to mark the start or end of your workday. Okay. I definitely do that. I go to the gym in the morning, I get my coffee. So I go and visit the local coffee shop, and that's sort of my routine. And then once I'm sitting in front of the computer, have had a chance to have at least half of the coffee, then around 10 o'clock, that's when the day actually starts. Meaning that's when I start to meet with clients. So it is really important to be able to set up those sort of signals to yourself in terms of what you should be doing and being able to manage your energy. Okay, make time for breaks. Okay, that will help you both physically and mentally. Something that I do for myself is I don't eat. I used to eat in front of my computer. I used to eat lunch in front of my computer when I, at times, and now I don't do that. I actually step away, go downstairs because I work from home, go downstairs and just change up the environment and make sure that I do take time for breaks. And when I say time for breaks, it's usually when I have to fill up the water. That's usually when I step away. So being able to consciously make time for yourself is really, really important, especially as we're, in front of Zoom, in front of all of this, we're in front of a computer, we're constantly on video. It is important to be able to step away and take a break. Okay, and I see that the other people have put in the chat. Fiona has commented, never put your work email on your personal device phones so that you're tempted to look on weekends. Ooh, that's a big one. I haven't mastered that just yet, but I think it's a great suggestion. And I see somebody else said I should put this in practice. And then I see Yvonne has commented, I set up a egg timer, so that I get up from the laptop every 40 minutes and stretch. Ooh, that's a great one. And I think just a reminder that it is important to get up and step away. So we're going to actually segue. It's a very nice segue, Yvonne, into my next into the next must-know trend, which is productivity powerhouses. Okay, so the reality is productivity and a healthy work life aren't at odds. So we have to think about how can we stay engaged and productive. Okay, so I don't know if you're familiar with Daniel Pink. He's written, he's a best-selling author. He's written many, many books. And he talks about, he's also written about the 3 stages of productivity and your energy throughout the day. Okay, so what he talks about is you want to ensure that you're working on the right tasks during the right stages each day. And doing that, what it can do, it can dramatically increase your productivity. You also want to understand the stages and then assign the right tasks at each of the stage. So he talks about 3 stages. The 3 stages, the first stage is your peak. That's when you have the most energy, feel like you can accomplish anything. So in the chat, let me know, when is your peak of the day? I can share with you, mine is definitely in the morning. 10 a.m., 11 to 3, morning, 2 o'clock. Yeah, some people's peaks are in the afternoon for sure. 9:30 to 12. Look at that. 10 to 2. Yeah, absolutely. So this is really early morning. Yes, I can definitely relate to that when I get to the gym. So that's when you have a lot of your energy. Okay, you can accomplish anything. So you want to take on tasks and big projects that take lots of mental energy during that time. Okay, so it makes sense. Your energy is matching with your productivity. So then there's the trough time. Okay, so that's when you feel sluggish and have low energy. Okay, so when if you could just comment in the chat, when do you feel is that time of the day for you, the trough? 3 to 4, 3 to 4. See, there's no 3 o'clock. That's the magic time. That's like coffee break time. So there's a science behind that. Okay, and some people have 3 to 4 mid-afternoon, 4 p.m., 3 to 6 tea time, absolutely, 4 o'clock. Okay, excellent. So that's when you realize that you've got lower energy. And what he recommends is when you've got low energy, this is the stage where you want to work on administrative and repetitive tasks. Okay, so things that don't require a lot of thinking. It's just something that you know you've got to do. It's more of a doing thing. Okay, then the third stage he talks about is recovery. So recovery happens when your mood is up but aren't at your sharpest. Okay, this is the time that requires insight and creativity like brainstorming or planning. So when does recovery happen? If you can just type in the chat, what time, and if it's AM or PM, what time that happens. 7 p.m.-ish, around 5. 1 a.m., 1:11 a.m. is when the recovery happens. Yeah, after work, 7 to 10. Yeah, and then I love that. I love that. So realizing where your productivity is and being able to match your energy is really, really important. And I do the same thing. I typically meet with clients. So my day is usually 9 to 10 admin tasks, 10 to 4 client meetings or internal meetings. And then after 4, it's the administrative repetitive tasks that I'm working on. And then it's time to pick up my son. So I have a hard stop usually around 5:30 or so to go pick up my son and to take him to his activities. Okay, great. So just be mindful of that. What is your peak? What is your trough? And what is your recovery? Okay, so the third must-know workplace trend: building durable relationships in a virtual first world. Okay, so this is really important. We've been in this virtual world, as we talked about earlier, you no longer have those instances where you bump into people, coworkers in the hall or at the water cooler, or those are limited if you're working in a hybrid environment. So it's really important to intentionally create those opportunities. Okay, so what are some of the ways that you may be able to do that? Okay, so it is important. The key here is intentionally. So it is about making a point of reaching out to coworkers daily. Okay, so it could be reaching out to coworkers daily. You could set a time during the week where you connect, because connection is important. Okay, like we are still human beings. Human interaction still is critical. Okay. Other things that you can consider doing besides reaching out to your coworkers, I've had coworkers who have continued, when I earlier on in my career, we used to all have lunch together in the lunchroom. So they have lunch on Zoom. Okay, so you build that time in your day to meet at, and it could be coffee time on Zoom. Okay, that could be another thing that you could do, or Zoom, or whatever virtual platform that you may be working on. Other ways are considering turning your camera on for video calls. Okay, and I think that is also important. When you turn the camera on, it allows the other person to really see how you're doing. Okay, because I think that often, when we turn the camera off, I know as a facilitator, it can be tough, and that's why I love that you're all participating using the emojis, because I know you're there and I know you're listening. So it is important to be able to interact, for people to be able to see you, and it's far more engaging. Not only can they see you, they can also see your body language, because 90% of communication actually happens through the body language, not what you're saying. It's how you are showing up. So it is important to be able to show your face, not only your face, but also a little bit more of you, your torso, maybe your arms, so that it's more humanistic, and that is all part of body language. Okay. The other things that you can do in order to continue to build durable relationships in this virtual world are setting up, like we said, routine touch points. You could set up brainstorming sessions or small group meetings. So this also helps not only with, of course, collaboration, but also innovation. Okay, so these are key things to be able to do that. And not only that, I think when you want to build relationships, you want to think about psychological safety. And when we talk about psychological safety, we're talking about trust, connection, and safety, and feeling safe. And all of this only happens when we are interacting. Okay, so there's some ideas in terms of how you can continue to build durable relationships. And I do also want to point out that it is even more important as you're starting a job in a virtual world to intentionally set up those meetings with your manager, with your colleagues, just to understand, to learn more about it. Sort of that first 100 days, it is really important to understand who's who in the zoo, how can you work together, and how does their work impact your work. Okay, so really important to be able to do that. Okay, so some ideas there. The other piece about one of the must-know workplace trends is soft skills, and soft skills will reign supreme. I think in a lot of cases we think we think of more of the hard skills that are important, but in a hybrid environment, soft skills will be as important, if not more. Okay, they've always been required for in-person workplaces, but really amped up in response to the distance that we have. Okay, improved by the remote factor. So these skills include active listening. Okay, I know that my dad growing up, what I would say is there's a reason why you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. So it is important to practice the skill of active listening. Another key piece is empathy and vulnerability. Okay, in other words, it's what it is to be human. And you may have seen a lot of articles over the last 2 years about how important just being vulnerable for leaders, especially being empathetic, being understanding, have played. We talk about emotional intelligence, or EQ, how having a high EQ is actually really critical. Okay, so it's no longer some of the skills that we thought that were going to be, or soft skills that were important, or hard skills that were important as being a manager, but it really is in the empathy and the compassion that we can give to each other. Okay, in other words, it's what it is to be human. Okay, the other piece that is really critical in terms of soft skills are agility and continuous learning. Okay, and I think it's quite interesting when we talk about agility, where agility is, if we haven't learned how to be agile in the last 2 years, I don't know where you've been. You've had to be agile, and you continue, and that continues to reign really, really important in the work environments, because they are continuously changing. Okay, so being able to tap into that, being agile, being able to tap into that, and you've shown that you've you've been able to do that in the last 2+ years is critical. Continuous learning is also really important. So being able to stretch yourself, being able to want to continue to develop yourself, understand what learning opportunities are out there, understanding that learning may be of value for you, and continuing to invest in yourself, whether it's time, energy, or both. Usually it takes both, or other resources in developing yourself is critical. Okay. So just looking at the chat here, and I did see that Yvonne, thank you very much. Brene Brown has an excellent resource. She talks a lot about vulnerability, empathy. She talks about courage is actually being vulnerable, for sure. So definitely check out some of Brene Brown's work. Okay. Okay, excellent. So we are getting to the last two of the must-know workplace trends. So one of the other ones that's really important is upskilling. I'm sure you've heard of upskilling mentioned. I know that we've talked about it in past conferences, about the importance of upskilling in your career and continuing to do that. So not only are the soft skills important, but the hard skills are important as well. So you need to stay current and sharp on the skills and attributes that are needed and continuing to, that are requirements for movement in your industry. Okay, so it is really important to, understand what are opportunities looking for in terms of where there are opportunities to upskill. Okay, and we're going to talk a little bit about that in the next slide about how you can integrate that into your job search and understanding where there are opportunities to learn and to grow and to upskill. Okay, so the sixth and final must-know major workplace trend is creating real social trust in a virtual world. Okay, many of us have had to move away from a world that is incredibly high contact. Seeing, each other every day in person, grabbing lunch, meeting for coffee, happy hours, whatever it is, brainstorming in person. Okay, it's devoid of in-person interaction. So we're really missing that. So employees are having to find new ways to connect and build trust that is so core to working relationships. Okay, so some simple strategies that you can start to implement are small talk is anything but small. Take a few minutes at the start of a call to ask about the person. Okay, it's not about, sure, you've got things that you want to accomplish, items that you have on your agenda, but take a little bit of time to check in. Ask about families. Show interest in things that are happening in the daily lives of your colleagues. Okay, so having that chit chat, having that small talk. I know when I have my one-on-one with my manager, I appreciate when she asks, how's your family doing? And throughout the pandemic, that was really the focus. Okay, so it is really important to think about, how can you integrate that into your calls? I mean, I think it's even more important now just because we're not actually seeing people. We're not actually really understanding or seeing how they are doing. So having sort of those authentic conversations, I like to say that they're very authentic, not just the work will get done, and it'll probably get done in way better if you take the time to build that authenticity and that connection. Okay, so we are going to move on to talking about how some of these can be integrated to master your job search. Okay, so some of the trends. So when we talk about X, we mean the trends. So, we've talked about, hybrid work environment, flexibility, mental health, diversity, inclusion. These are some, we touched very little on diversity, equity, and inclusion, but you want to be thinking about, okay, understanding that this is important for, in the studies and likely very important for you, as we saw with all the emojis and the interaction. What are some ways that you're able to integrate some of those trends into your job search? Okay. One of the ways is interviewing. Okay, so we talk about interviewing. We want to be prepared to be able to ask questions, and not only ask questions about, but also answer questions related to any of these trends. Okay, some of these things that you want to be thinking about, sample questions you may want to be prepared to ask. An example is, what initiatives has your company started over the last 2 years to maintain their culture? Okay, I think that that's a critical one because, as you know, many companies have struggled with that. So what have they actually done to be able to maintain and even continue to build and develop their culture? Okay. Another one could be, outside of ramping up all employees' technology to work remotely, what were your organization's greatest challenges over the last 2 years? I think it's a good question to ask. And I think understanding what their challenges are can often, in an interviewing situation, present opportunities for you. So this actually gives you a way to understand, what have they been challenged with? Are there ways that I can help them with some of the areas that they have been challenged with? Okay. So something to think about. Another question that you can ask, how is your organization managing more hybrid working requests from employees? Or even understanding, what is their working arrangement? I think even broadening that question to, like, help me understand, what is your working arrangement? Is it a hybrid environment? Is it a combination of remote and in the office? If it's a combination of both, what percentage? What's kind of the policy around that? And I think not only what the policy is, it's also important to understand, how does that hiring manager feel about the policy, or being able to assess that. Okay. Other things that you want to be thinking about, what kind of wellness benefits did your organization add over the last 2 years? I think it's a great question. I know a lot of organizations, LHH included, have invested in mental health and well-being. They've definitely changed some of their health plans in order to accommodate the need to prevent burnout. So asking questions like that to understand, what have they actually done to respond to burnout? Okay. Another question that you can ask, as remote and hybrid roles are inundated with online meetings, what policies have emerged to help with online burnout? Okay, because I think that that is a critical one. And just a little tip, a pro tip, if you're on Zoom, I know Zoom for sure, there is an opportunity for you to click, when you're on Zoom and you're looking at the 3 dots on the Zoom window, you can actually hide your self view. And I typically do that when I'm in meetings, because I find that having to look at one less thing and that myself just helps with being able to be more focused. So, it is really important to understand, what have they done, right? What have they done to be able to respond to that? Any policies, or sometimes it's no Zoom Fridays. I have no Zoom weekends. I definitely don't do Zoom meetings on the weekend. I try to limit them Monday to Thursday in my work week wherever possible. So some things that you can think about. Okay. So, these are some of the questions that you can start to think about and start to ask, in the interviews that you're going to be doing. And there's also questions that could come up related to diversity, equity, and inclusion. Okay, so these could be questions that you may actually be asked in terms of your thoughts around those things. And, an example of that could be, please share with us what diversity, equity, and inclusion means to you and why they're important. Okay, so you definitely want to have thought through what that actually means for you, okay, and what is important about it. Some of the other questions that that can come up is, in your opinion, what is the most challenging aspect of working in a diverse environment? Okay, and that could be a question that either you're asked or you could ask. Okay. A question that you could get asked is, what is your approach to understanding the perspectives of colleagues from different backgrounds? Okay. So I think that, you just want to start thinking about, what we are seeing with clients, and what the feedback that we are getting is, because diversity, equity, inclusion is so important and so critical. These are questions that you want to be prepared to ask or have thought through. Okay. Okay. So was that helpful? Were some of those questions helpful in your interviewing? If you could, any emoji, freestyle, whatever you want to click. Excellent. Great. Okay, awesome. Getting a lot of great feedback from everyone, being that those questions were helpful. Okay, so the other piece that we talked about is upskilling and the future of skills. Okay, and we did talk a little bit about them not only being hard skills. Okay, so what are ways that you can understand upskilling? Okay, one of the ways is to scan your industry. I think, what I recommend to clients often is take a look at job descriptions. Okay, the job descriptions are great resources to understand what is a must have, what is a nice to have, and for you to be able to understand, is there some upskilling opportunities that are there for you? Okay, so scanning your industry, even if you're part of a professional association, often they have professional development is key in the work that they do. If you're part of a professional association, look to see what are some of the trends. What are you seeing in terms of the must-have skills? What is the professional association talking about? Okay, because these are going to be good indicators in terms of what you're actually have to be thinking about in terms of upskilling for yourself. Okay, so those again are opportunities to upskill. Okay, so other things, practical, sustainable ways to upskill are attending networking events as part of, like I mentioned, professional associations, conferences such as this one, and workshops are all great ways to get a sense of trends and direction in your profession. Okay, other ways to be able to actually once you understand what needs to be done, then you can understand how you can actually do it. So what is it that you're going to do, or what courses are you going to take to be able to upskill? LinkedIn Learning is a great way to be able to do that. Does anybody use LinkedIn Learning? Maybe with a thumbs up. Yeah, LinkedIn Learning. Okay, so did you know that LinkedIn Learning is actually available for free through the library? Okay, maybe an applause for people who know that. So, if you've got a library card and a pin, you can actually leverage LinkedIn Learning through their platform. Because I think often people think, okay, I've got to pay for it through some level of LinkedIn membership, but know that you can access it with having a library card. Okay, so you can get set up for that. So I think it is really critical to look and see how you are able to access. Any other platforms, learning platforms that people use, if you want to just pop it into the chat. Okay. What are some of the ones that you use besides LinkedIn Learning? Coursera is great. YouTube, excellent. YouTube has some phenomenal interviewing resources as well. Udemy is another place to go, absolutely. Allison Institute, that's a new one. I haven't heard of that. Gale through the Toronto Public Library, excellent. Coursera is another very popular one. So these are all additional places that you can go to be able to upskill. Okay. Charisma on Command, YouTube channel, great. Okay, excellent resources that your colleagues have shared. Okay, so really important to think about, the hard skills as we've talked about, and I think some of the other things you want to be thinking about are the soft skills that are important. Okay, so while the jobs of the future are expected to be more, as we know, machine powered, data driven than in the past, they will also need human skills. So that's the good news. And so when we talk about human skills and soft skills, some of those soft skills that we're talking about are problem solving, communication, listening, interpretation, design. So these are some of the skills that you want to be keeping in mind, that not only are the hard skills going to be important, but those are some of the soft skills as well that are going to be important for you to, that are going to be important. They are the future of skills. So it's not only just the hard skills that are needed, but also thinking about the soft skills. Okay. Okay, so as we wrap up this session, I know there's been some questions and we will get to them. And the questions have been in the chat, but I do want to, let's see if this works. Are you ready for the future of work? Okay, can I see some thumbs up? This is freestyle, any emoji. Okay. Excellent, thank you. Thank you, everyone. So we are going to open it up to some questions. So I will hand it over to Iona.
And there's a theme arising in the questions about curiosity about your thoughts on the future, specifically of remote work, and if you think that companies will ever go back to working from the office Monday to Friday.
Yeah, that's a great question. In my own personal opinion, I don't think so. I think what this pandemic has done is it's something that we can't go backwards. We can only move forwards from here. And I know in my own work, I'm 100% remote. So I don't go into an office. What we do have are dinners. I meet with my colleagues, which is nice. We've done that on a few occasions. I don't see us going back completely into the office. Now, a lot of it does depend on, of course, on the role that you're doing. If it's possible to work remotely. I mean, if you're customer service, and you need to be in the office, it's difficult. So it really does depend on, part of it is, of course, the role that you're doing and whether or not it can be facilitated and done remotely. But I don't see us going back to 100% in the office ever.
Yeah, I would agree. I think once we've got a taste of it and, employers saw that we were productive and, we managed to get through and in some cases really thrive. So, and opened up new opportunities. Absolutely. So connected to that, and you talked a lot about, culture and fit being really important. I have a question here. How do you ask a future employer, so in an interview situation, specifically like how their work and culture looks like? How do you pose that question?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think culture, there's a couple of different things that you can ask in terms of culture. And what I always recommend to clients is stay broad. You want to start the question with what, because that just helps, and be curious. So, some of the questions that you can ask are, describe the work environment. What do you enjoy most about working here? What do you enjoy least about working here? Just understanding, what are some of the values that the organization has that align with who you are, and I think by being able to ask those questions and keeping them as, open-ended, broad, curious questions, you can understand a lot more about the company culture. So those are some of the questions that you ask. You can ask, does the company have a growth mindset? Would you describe the company as having a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset? I think being able to not only ask during the interview, but also asking people that work there in terms of, because, a lot of cases we do research on a website, we read some Glassdoor recommendations, but we don't really get a full understanding of what that experience is. So talking to people in the organizations wherever possible is important. And the interviewing process gives you that opportunity to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, being able to pose questions, and as you said earlier, talking about, even body language online and seeing the reaction of the person who's interviewing, are they bringing that passion and excitement in answering that question to you? And I think that in itself, speaks volumes to an organization's culture as well.
For sure.
You talked a lot about the importance of soft skills, right, as well as hard skills. And so someone was wondering if you could give some specific examples of, how to hone in and improve on those soft skills that you mentioned.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think that often, soft skills are not like you can just study something, write a test and know that you've got it. So different ways that you can hone in on are volunteering. I think often people, they experience is experience, whether it's paid or unpaid. I think, so what I often suggest to clients is volunteer, look for opportunities to volunteer. Maybe you are already volunteering. A lot of cases, it could be volunteering in a parent council. It could be volunteering, in an organization that is aligned with the work that you do. When I made my career transition, I was part of the ICF, the International Coach Federation. Although I was a professional coach, I wasn't doing that work full time, but I was able to volunteer on a board, network with people, open myself up to opportunities that could be available. So I think volunteering is a great way to be able to develop those soft skills. And in a lot of cases, you're probably already doing that. You just don't recognize it as being honing in on, because problem solving. You've definitely got to problem solve. You definitely have to collaborate. You have to think about innovation. Like, all of these are things that you can do not only in a paid environment, but can also do that in an unpaid environment as well.
Yeah, I think that's a great suggestion. And I would add to that in those volunteer environments, or even, with close friends and family, having the open discussion about the things that you want to improve, so people know what goals you have, right? And you're able to work on that together. So you're not just trying to, work through that alone. It's really helpful to have someone in your corner and knowing specifically what it is that you're working towards. So we've had a few really interesting questions about sort of bigger systemic issues, and I don't think that we can really dig into a few of them here. But there was one that was really interesting, and really wanting to get your perspective on it, just given how many different people you work with and the staff, the number of people that you have at your disposal. We're wondering about if you've heard anything from different employers or amongst your own team. What organizations may be doing to consider around some of that gap in digital access, right? So we're all kind of online right now and expected to work online. Have you heard anything that's been happening to support folks who can't really be online as much for whatever reason?
Yeah, that's a great question. In a lot of cases, so part of this diversity, equity, and inclusion, more about inclusion discussion is accommodations. That's been something that has come up in a lot of cases. So this may be, some accommodations that are needed because of some executive functioning or something that, they need certain requirements. And even in interviewing, I've had that come up specifically, accommodations be made in interviewing because somebody can't be online, for so many hours or, so I think asking about accommodations, I think as well, understanding, what, even as you're sort of talking about opportunities, understanding, what does the organization provide, right? Like, do they provide, typically in a lot of cases, they'll provide a laptop. So you'll definitely have access to a laptop. They in some cases will, because working remote, they will cover internet, right? So if there's something in terms of availability or accessibility to internet, sometimes they will cover some of that as well. And even organizations, depending on whether or not a cell phone is needed, they will also cover, cell phone expenses on cell phones. So, these are some of the ways that I've seen it sort of show up in terms of being able to accommodate. But I think it is important that organizations, and I think it's very telling when an organization sort of responds in a certain way to understand whether or not that's the right organization for you. Like if they're not willing to make some sort of accommodation or they don't have a way to support you working virtually or remote, it tells me a lot about what's important to them and is that going to align with what's important to me. And in a lot of cases, if it doesn't, it's probably not the right place.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. I know that's a tough question because there's so much to consider, and it's it's different from sector to sector, right? What's possible, where the capacity is. So it looks like I'm going to pop back to our soft skills because it looks like maybe another question was inspired by some of what you shared a few minutes ago, specifically to how you can stand out in your resume leverage around your soft skills so that you feel like you're putting your best foot forward to actually secure that interview.
Yeah, no, great question. And a couple of different places on the resume that you can put, that you can highlight some of those soft skills, which also are really part of your brand, right? So we talk about personal branding, and when we talk about personal branding, what we mean is what are you known for, right? So what do people recognize in you? And similar to, we talk about products and services, so it's almost like, I know it's hard for some people, but it can also be a differentiator in terms of thinking about yourself and the soft skills that you do have. So different ways that you can integrate that in a resume are including a branding line just below your contact information. So if you're known as the problem solver, put it down. Problem solver extraordinaire, put it out there. And other ways that you're able to do that is in the profile or summary. So that's when you 4 or 5 lines, you talk a little bit about, who you are, what your experience is, what industry experience you may have, what qualifications or credentials you have, but you also talk a little bit about what are you known for? What do people love about working with you? How do you get the results that you get? So this is a way for you to be able to include some of those key soft skills that are important. Okay. And then a great way to be able to include soft skills and hard skills to a large extent is just below your profile summary, include an area of expertise which covers skills, competencies, and some branding pieces. Okay, so or soft skills that you have. So those are all ways that you're able to integrate that in a resume.
That's fantastic. And also a very nice segue. I was going to do this a little bit later, but tomorrow our session with the conference is specifically on branding and around resume writing and LinkedIn. So for those of you who have those questions, tune in tomorrow and we can go a little bit more in depth into that. I think we've covered most of the questions here. Finally, the last thing I'm seeing here, of course, is just, how do we get access to all these great questions that you've posed and the information? So of course, we mentioned that we will be sharing the YouTube link to all the sessions from the conference later next week. And also, I think that you'll be putting together a few resources and handouts, compile some of what we talked about today. Great.
Yeah, for sure. I will definitely include that. I'll even include some links to some gig economy type of roles. So this is freelance, temporary work, in case that's something that you are looking at, because I think permanent full-time has definitely changed. It's not only all about that. So know that those are also options for you to consider as well. And so I will put together a handout with the interview questions that I talked about, because I did see that as well, that there was a lot of interest in that. And I can definitely put that together and have you share it with everyone.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. Unless there was any final sort of parting words that you want to share with us, Mina, I think that brings us to the end of this session today. We're so happy that you returned to join and share, your incredible insights and all the wonderful information that you've provided.
Great. Thank you, Iona. It's been a pleasure and privilege. This is the only way that I can talk about sort of my experience in speaking to Dress for Success and being able to help empower you in your own journey. It really is an honor, and I love this experience. So I just want to thank everybody for showing up and for just being so interactive in the chat. Thank you. You make a difference for a facilitator. And I also do want to thank, Iona, as well as, of course, Kim and Kate as well, the dynamic trio, really just putting this together and offering so much value to all of your clients. And again, it's an honor and privilege. And I love, this is one of my highlights of the year.
Well, we know it won't be the last one. So we look forward to working with you again in the future. Thank you so much, Mina. And yes, thank you to everyone who joined us today. And again, remember, we've got lots of exciting stuff happening for the rest of the week. As I mentioned, tomorrow is the Resumes and LinkedIn, Building Your Brand, and that is presented by Adecco, which is a staffing and workforce solutions company specializing in job search and placement services. And we'll touch on a little bit more of what Mina already chatted about today. And so we'll make sure that actually, Kim, if we can pop up that, if it's not already there, link so that it can take you directly to register for that session and the other sessions as well. And before you log off today, we would love if you could take a few minutes to provide some feedback about this session with a poll that's going to pop up on your screen in a moment here. So take your time to do that. And then afterwards, we'll be here for a few minutes to answer any other last minute questions. Other than that, we really hope to see you tomorrow. And we hope that you enjoyed today's presentation as we did. Thank you so much.
Thank you.